ever have a kid just keep asking you what's the score, especially in those games where they don't keep the score, or in the game they do, they just keep looking up to the scoreboard, looking at the score, wondering the score, what's the score, how do I beat the score? That's what we're talking about today. All right, how the score is not the only thing that matters in a game. It is important at the end of the game. You should probably know the score during the game, but the obsession over the score as a kid, as a coach, as a parent is not healthy. So Christy and I are going to walk you through today an episode about how to compartmentalize the score in a game and find new wins through a hockey game to really help the development of your child as a person, much less as a hockey player. Also, if you're inclined, head over to hockeywraparound.com. It's summertime. That means there's a lot of off-ice activities going on, and we all use those $200, $300 ice hockey sticks. The Hockey Wraparound was created to protect the blade of those sticks outside. That's used by a lot of players. Been over 500,000 of them sold. And you get a sale right now at hockeywraparound.com. If you use OKPH at checkout, you get a nice little discount. So check that out, hockeywraparound.com. They also have a couple other solutions out there that were recently patented. I'm saying that correctly. Hockeywraparound.com, hockeywraparound.com, hockeywraparound.com. Check them out. But without further ado, let's get you into the Our Kids Play Hockey episode right now with Christy and I about compartmentalizing the score. Hello, hockey friends and families around the world, and welcome to another edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. I'm Lee Elias, and I'm joined with Christy Casciano Burns. Mike Bonelli is on assignment tonight. Christy, usually we're saying you're the one on assignment, but tonight I get to say it finally. Mike Bonelli is on assignment. Maybe one day I'll be on assignment, but it'll probably be for something with this, so it's probably not going to happen, now that I'm thinking about it.
That's a lot to think about.
It is. I'm trying to confuse the audience right away so then go, oh, let's get past this and get to the topic. So today, we're going to be discussing a very interesting topic. It starts with a story. All right. My daughter, who's a mite, and don't worry, parents of kids and squirts and peewees and bantams and midgets and juniors and pro and everything else, this will still apply to you. But my daughter, who's a mite, is very interested, Christy, in always knowing what is the score to the game. What's the score? Are we winning? Are we losing? In fact, it's not just her. Every kid on the bench wants to know the score. None of them know the score, by the way. They all think it's a different score. Half the kids think they're winning. Half the kids think they're losing. It's not uncommon at the end of the game for both teams to think they've won. It's very confusing. But the question is, what's the score? And as you know, Christy, in mite hockey, they don't keep the score. There's no scoreboard, nothing. You have a time on the clock. Some of the parents keep the score. Some of the coaches keep the score. But there is, by rules, no score. And the reason we do that, just so everybody understands, is because at that age, we want them focused on development. Purely development, skating and playing, and not focused on the score. Now, while that's frustrating to a lot of people, even me at times, I do agree with this. And I think there's a larger lesson at play with just the score in general that we don't think about. So today's episode's kind of titled, Why the Score Doesn't Matter Until the End of the Game. Now, for all the coaches listening out there, yes, knowing the score during the game, and players too, all of this, is somewhat important. You need to know where you stand. But the score itself is just a tally until the end of the game. The score is official when the game ends. That's when the score matters, right? No one ever talks about, yeah, we were winning 5-0. Did you win the game? No, but we were winning. Nobody ever says that, right? You say we lost or we won, or we blew a 5-goal lead, or we came back from a 5-goal lead. The score doesn't matter until the end of the game. So what Christy and I are going to go over today is a few things, that you can tell your kids if they're in a position where there is no score, like what are the right messages to give? And then for the older kids, how to apply this to making you play better no matter what the score is. Because I have seen the pressure eat kids alive, Christy, where it's a close game late and or they're down 2 goals and they start making these changes to the way they play without the coaching coming into play, and it can really disrupt the game. So before I dive in, I should throw it to you for a second, because I'm sure you've experienced this in your own parenting.
Yeah. And, this is a hard concept for the little ones to grasp because it's contradictory to what they're taught in school. We do keep grades, right, as a measurement.
Right.
Well, mom, the teacher lets me know if I got an A, B, C, an A+. What? I don't understand. All of a sudden, measurements don't matter. What is that's it's a difficult concept for the kids to grasp initially, and you kind of have to explain to them this is a different environment. Yes, school, we do have that application. Okay, we measure you, we grade you so that you know where you are and what you need to work on. Well, why doesn't that apply in hockey then? And then you have to explain to them, because is not individual anymore. You're part of a team.
Great point.
Okay, something bigger. So we're not grading each one of you as players. We're looking at you. How do you work together as a team? And we're not going to grade that. We're not going to put, a score on it. What you need to focus on is your teamwork. Your passing. Are you communicating with your teammates? Are you understanding the concept of the game? That's what you're focusing on right now, not scoring. And then all of a sudden the little light bulbs go, oh, okay, I get it. So you really need to help the kids understand why you're doing it, not just say, we're not keeping score of this game. Because they don't get it. Because everything that they do has a measurement. So
Right.
Now let me ask, with your daughter, was she really inquisitive? Did she want to know specifically, why is this different in hockey? And how'd you explain that to her?
Yeah, she wanted to know the score after every shift. And you know what? I think one of the mistakes I made, and I think a lot of us do this, was that, we kind of make declarative statements, right? We say, well,
Right.
listen, score doesn't matter. All that matters is that you have fun. That's what we all
Right.
say. And it's true.
Yeah.
It's a good message to have, right? But here's the thing.
Yeah.
The kids are having fun, right? They know
Right.
that, right? And it is true that when you're keeping score, it is a bit more fun because there's more at stake. So what I started to do is, instead of saying, hey, it's just supposed to be fun, I started asking
Right.
questions, right?
Yeah.
Well, why do you want to know the score? Right.
Right.
And it's funny because she didn't even know. It's just like you said.
It's something you do.
Yeah, well, that's what
Well,
you're supposed to
they
do.
do it in their other areas of their life.
Right. So there's some preconditioned thinking there that I started to break into
Right. Even when they play a
right.
game
Right.
in the playground, right? It's win, lose, you're keeping score.
Right.
In their earliest age.
Right. So, but when I asked her again, like, she wasn't even quite sure. Right. And
Okay.
then, it started to get a little deeper of just, well, why do you want to know the score? Right. Why does that matter to you? And she goes, well, I just want to know if we're winning. And I said, okay, I understand where this is going. Right. And this is where it opened up a whole nother line of questioning. And this is where I think the crux of the episode is going to be. Right. Then it started getting into okay, what are the things you need to do the next shift to
Right.
help the team do better? I didn't even say
Yeah.
win or lose, because I don't think that should be the only thing that you think about during a game
Right.
at this level. Right. And what I'm trying to do as a coach and as a parent is get her and all the other kids to understand that if you're too focused on the outcome, you're not going to be focused on the present moment, which is
Very good.
it's not as hard as you think for kids to understand that, right?
Right.
It takes a little work, but they will
Yeah.
get this more than you think. A lot of adults, I think kids can't understand. Kids are more present than we are.
Yeah. But you have to
Right?
explain it to them.
I did. Yeah. So I said, the things that you do on the next shift, both yourself and with your teammates, can help result in the score being better. Right. And again, look, every single kid ever born is focused on the outcome and focused on the future, because we teach them to do that. I'm just trying to create some like very micro level consciousness of, hey, you're too far ahead. Let's just go out there and have a good shift. So one of my first messages, and again, if you do keep score, and this is where I'm going to equate it to the older kids, right? If you are focused on the score, I guarantee you're going to play differently, right? And again, I'm not saying you shouldn't know the score. I'm not saying you shouldn't be aware of the situation you're in. There's a difference between being down, 5 goals than to 1 goal, in the sense of just the score is different. If it's changing how you play and putting you into a desperate point of view where you might make bad decisions, I'm not talking about risks, I'm talking about bad decisions, right? It can affect your play. So it's so important as a player that you're able to know that I have my shift coming up and I can affect what I do on that shift. You can't be 3 shifts ahead. You can't be in the third period and the first period. You just have to go out there and play your shift. So going back to my daughter, and I try and give her more goals or more wins, right? So I think another mistake teams make, Christy, is that the win is just winning the game. And then everything's locked up in that. My identity as a hockey player is locked up in the win or the loss. My identity as a coach is locked up in the win or the loss. And I try and say your identity should be, what are you outputting next shift? And then let's get more wins. I want to see you, and this is a cute part of the story, I just want to see you skate as hard as you can next shift. I don't care if you score. I don't care if you make an assist. Just show me that you can skate. Again, talking might level, right? You got to find these wins at the older levels. And you know what? She went out there and she came back to the bench. She said the funniest thing. She looked me right in the eye and she goes, my heart is beating so fast. Dad, put put your hand on my chest and feel my heart. And then we did this whole thing back and forth where she actually felt my pulse. I felt her pulse. And she was really excited because her heart was beating. And this is the key. She did not ask me what the score was after that shift.
Yeah.
Right. She was focused on, wow, I did it. I won. I did the thing. So I shifted the win. I shifted the focus from winning the game, which again, I honestly, I don't even know the score in these games. I'm not counting. Right. After 3 or 4, I really lose count because they happen so often in my hockey. She was focused on the win of the shift, which was, wow, my heart is pounding because I worked so hard. And we had a little moment of celebration together. The other coach was like, that's awesome. And the other kids saw it. Right. So I know you see, but you see where I'm going with this is I shifted the focus away from, I didn't just go, it's supposed to be fun, and then it was like, now your heart's beating. Now I want you to get the puck because you're skating so fast. Now the next shift, there's another win. Right. You see where I'm going with all this?
Right. And that will serve them well as they get older too, because they're going to go up against teams. And, throughout my kids' hockey experiences, there have been teams that they've gone against that it's, David and Goliath. They face Goliath. And they know that there's no way they're going to beat this dynamo team. So the focus becomes, all right, win each shift, win your shift. And if you teach them at this mite age the importance of that, then it's familiar to them.
Right.
Then they get it. Okay, the score, it's already in their psyche. I know that we're not going to beat this team. We're going to do our darndest though to try. And every time I'm out there, I'm gonna win my shift.
Right.
So that's a really great concept for them to grasp at a very young age, and they can get it. They can get it. So yes, you make it fun. Of course, you want to make it. We always hear that all the time. Make it fun. Make it fun. Yeah. But also,
I'm here because it's fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Help them make sense and learn the game and why it's so important not to focus so much on the score, because later in life they're gonna be in situations where it gets pretty depressing, especially when you're against such a well-oiled machine. And you might be that ragtag team that comes in and is not quite as skilled as the team you're going against. So, and that can be very depressing for kids when they face that. But if they've got the notion that this isn't about the score, this game, we're just going to do our best, and we're going to go after them. We're going to go at it. We're going to nitpick. We're going to win. We're going to score when we can. That's such a great concept to learn at such a young age. So good for your daughter that she's already getting that.
She's like that. Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you too, to your point, integrity comes into play here when you know you're going to lose or you're playing. It's very unlikely you're going to win. Let's say it that way, right? Yeah. Because what's funny, Christy? I talked about this many episodes ago, probably over 100 episodes ago. I remember talking about this team that we played when I was in youth hockey. It's probably a bantam, might have been a midget, and that's U18, U16, and we played this team that had not won a game all year, and we knew they weren't going to beat us, right? And the integrity that this team showed, knowing that, I never forgot it. I mean, it's a lifelong impact what this team did. I remember after the game, they thanked us for being there. They gave us sandwiches. I mean, they brought us food. They had a meet and greet. They wanted us to know all the teams. I mean, that really stuck with me. And it was not close. It was not a close game. And I'm thinking, wow, the integrity. I mean, it taught me something. You know what I mean? There's games we've blown out teams I don't even remember because that wasn't part of it, right? So there's a lot that goes into winning and losing. Now, I want to address this too, because I'm sure there's some people listening, and I get this in conversations all the time about the competitive nature of sports. And I want my kid to be competitive. And how are they going to be competitive if they don't know the score and they don't want to win? And this is where I think there needs to be a little bit of a social shift. All right. And this is where in my opinion, my coaching experience comes into play. All right. I hate to lose, Christy. I hate it. All right.
Of course.
I hate it. Right. But the stuff I'm talking about, focusing on what you control, being present, has not waned my hatred for losing. If anything, it's actually made me more competitive. Right. So I think that there are parents that go, you can't lose, you gotta win, you can't. Yeah. And the thing is, all I think you're doing is using the power of negative reinforcement to scare the crap out of your kids. And again, look, there is a power in that. I'm not going to lie. There is a power in creating a fear of losing. All right. It will make some athletes do incredible things. However, I do not think it's more powerful than positive reinforcement. I think every article out there today from the NHL down shows that the positive reinforcement is better. Again, every kid's different. I got to say that. Right? Some kids are motivated a bit more when you get on top of them. But I'm trying to say this, that only focusing on win and loss of the score, I don't believe that is going to make your kid more or less competitive. The most competitive people I know have an ability to be in the present moment. And if you look at any sport, Michael Jordan, I'm talking champions, Michael Jordan's, Kobe Bryant's, Wayne Gretzky's, Mark Messier's, they have an ability to be extremely present and competitive at the same time. And this is the point I'm trying to make. Where and when do you think they learned to do that? Right. It's a progress over time, but I bet you it started at a very young age. The ability to be present. And a lot of it starts, Christy, with the failures and understanding how to compartmentalize a massive failure. Going through those athletes. Again, Jordan didn't make his high school basketball team. Very well-known story. Kobe Bryant had to move around his entire life. Starting the NBA when he was 18. It was not awesome. Wayne Gretzky, people would say, well, he was gifted from birth. That dude didn't win a Stanley Cup right away. He had to lose to win a Stanley Cup. Right? You can look at the NHL. Look at every great NHL team. You know, I'm just going back in my head. The Blues didn't win forever. The Capitals couldn't beat the Penguins. I mean, I'm just going back through time here, right? There's got to be losing, and there's got to be a way to lose in which you learn, right? So kind of bringing this back full circle. If your kid's only focused on winning, they're missing out on these life lessons and how to compartmentalize losing. There's a lot of wins and a lot of losses in a hockey. There's a lot of them in a shift. The whole game is based on capitalizing on other people's mistakes. Right? The whole game. You're going to win and lose in your shift. Every shift. I don't think I've ever had a shift where I won the whole shift. I mean, like from the second I got on the ice to the second I got off the ice, we'll say that was more than 20 seconds. I don't think it's ever happened. Right? So teaching these lessons, focusing on what you can control, trying to be present, not creating unneeded tension. Right? Here's another one I'll say to you, Christine. I'll throw it back to you. And I've seen this so many times as a coach. Coaches typically have a game plan. We'll talk a little bit higher levels now, right? We have a game plan, and we know what we're doing, right? For the most part, I gotta say that, right? Good coaches know what they're doing, and I've seen it so many times where we're in a game, we're playing great, and another team will go up a goal or 2 goals, and we call it abandoning the game plan. We'll see players start to abandon the game plan and start doing what they want to do because they're feeling the tension of the moment. And look, sometimes it's not ill will. It's just, I want to win. I want to win so bad. That's not what we need in that moment. We need people to stay the course and play the game plan. And we'll let you know when you should take risks. Right. And inevitably, I'd say 9.5 times out of 10, when we have players taking risks and abandoning the game plan, it gets worse and worse and worse and worse. Right. All right. But when you stick to the game plan, things happen.
And that's really important for kids to learn too, because I can remember a couple of games with my son's team, and we had a very gifted player, and he felt like if they weren't winning, that it was up to him to carry the game. So he would go rogue, and he'd go off on his own, and he'd do these stupid plays because he thought, well, I'm the only one who's going to save us here, and he abandoned the team, and he abandoned the game plan.
And how did that work out?
Not well.
Just say, never worked.
Ended up in the penalty box and might have even gotten thrown out, ejected for one of the games because he couldn't control his emotions. And he was super competitive. God bless him. I mean, I love that competitive spirit, but he didn't know how to rein it in. He didn't know how to focus it. He didn't know how to use it to the team's advantage.
That's a great point you just made, right?
Yeah.
That he has the competitive experience. That's a good thing, right? But he could not control it. I think that's a super big point, Christy.
Yeah. I mean, he went off and became this fantastic football player, which kudos to him.
Right.
But at the age of 12 and 13, and I got to tell you, this kid was gifted. I mean, people would just come around to our ring just to watch him play. That's how talented he was. But he needed a lot of coaching around him to try and figure out how to be control his emotions. I mean, that's what got to him. He would, and because he had such a fire in him, he wanted to win, and he didn't know how to tone it down and how
Right.
to say, okay, how can I channel this and use it to the team's advantage rather than just I'm gonna save the day, I'm gonna win the game, and that doesn't work out. Yeah.
Here's some great real world examples based on what you just said. I'll tell you why he succeeded at football and not hockey. All right. I'll start there. Actually, I've coached football, and it is an incredible team sport. There is virtually no way to win at football without utilizing your teammates. Right. And I think that all football players know that. Now, quarterback's an interesting position because you can take the ball and start running and really build some offense,
Right.
as long as you don't get hurt. Right.
Right.
But here's the deal. At the end of the day, you need your defense to come on the field and play as
Yeah,
well.
you do.
There's no way to win that game on your own. All right. Again, all-star performances, sure. If you're an all-star wide receiver, you need the quarterback to get you the ball. If you're an all-star, running back, you may get that offensive line needs to clear the way, right? Like there's a lot that needs to happen. So I think in football, if you're a star athlete, you have to rely on the team, and you know that. Whereas in hockey, I think there's an appearance because you're skating so fast that you don't need to do that. Now, I can't tell you in youth hockey, bringing it back, Mite, Squirt, Pee Wee, how many times I have seen an athlete who's gifted go 1-on-4 against the other team. And I am not sure that I've ever seen a player come out of that and score.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever seen it. Right. I'm sure it happens. Don't get me wrong. We've talked about this before, the difference between a good player and a great player. A good player has a lot of talent and makes these plays and tries these things. A great player makes every player on the ice better.
Right.
Right? You
Yeah.
have to utilize the other 4 players, assuming you're full strength,
Yeah.
skaters, to your advantage. And if you're gifted and you're going 1-on-4 as a coach, you probably already know what I'm going to say. Hey, your teammates are all open.
Right.
Create the
Right.
space and get it
Yeah.
to them. Right?
And you do see that a lot with the
What?
very gifted players. Exactly what you said, that they don't realize how important their teammates are.
Oh, it's
That
imperative.
they tend to, want to be the hero, which
Right.
is great. But to your point, seeing that you've got the open teammates, it's so many times I've seen these gifted players just go with the puck and like, I'm on my own. This
Yeah.
is mine,
Yeah.
and not use their teammates. Yeah.
You
And
have to.
it failed in the end. I mean, you might win, you might score a few goals, but in the long run, like you say, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
But
It's not going to serve your team well.
I'll say this too. Someone might say, well, my 4 teammates aren't great. They're not good. Well,
Right.
I'll tell you what, 4 open players, if I gave them each a shot during a game with no one on them, I think there's a better chance of them scoring than me scoring going 1-on-4 5 times.
Right.
You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
and again, I coach kids like this. And it's hard. It's hard when they're talented and they don't see everybody else. I'll tell you another thing about youth hockey before I jump into this Barkley story. This is something that was a coach woke me up to this, and I thought it was brilliant because I never thought about it this way. That you'll get these hot shots at Mite that are really good. It's natural, and Squirt too. You just have kids with some more ability. And I
Right.
remember thinking that, and I told him, like, if that kid doesn't learn how to pass the puck and share the puck, his teammates are going to hate him or her
Yeah.
when they get older. And he said this, and it made me really think. He goes, "You're right, 100%. When they get older, that's true. The problem is at the Mite age, and somewhat at the Squirt age, that kid's a hero to his teammates
That's true.
because at that age, that kid can't miss. They're the hero. That's how they view it, right? Even if
Yeah.
they're not getting the pass, they just want to win the game, right? And again, this is another reason why we probably shouldn't keep the score, right? Because all that's going to happen is the best kids are going to get the puck, go end to end, and score.
Yeah.
And it's about, I want to teach that 8-year-old, hey, I want you to get 3 assists today because assists
Right.
are worth as much as goals. And it's important that your teammate gets shot too. But they never score when I pass them. And they're never going to score if you don't pass to them. We need to
Right.
teach them the score doesn't matter. We're not
Right.
keeping score. And then I would
Right.
say the score for you today is how many great passes can you make, whether they score or not.
Yeah.
Can you make 5 great passes in the game today, whether they score or not? All right. You
Right.
can also score 5 goals, right? But you got to make 5 passes. I'm changing what the win is,
Right.
right? And again, I swear to you, parents, I don't know the score at the end of these Mike games. I mean, I might have a clue if it's lopsided, but I can't tell you the score because I'm not interested, right? And on the bench is another mistake I think a lot of Mike coaches make. They give play-by-play to the kids on the ice. Now, again, we have a lot of volunteer parents helping. God bless you all. We appreciate you. But telling the kids on the ice where to go and what to do is not coaching,
No.
right? And I'll admit it's hard. What I tend to do is I'm coaching the kids on the bench, right? So, hey, did you see that play that he or she tried to make? This would be a better play to make when you're out there. All right. Okay. And again, for those of you who see me coach, I'm guilty of this too. I say things on the ice all the time. Hey, go here, do this. All right. But it's got to be a mentality, of a development mentality. I'm not just trying to get them to score. You know, we want these kids to pass. Now, let me tell you this really quick Charles Barkley story because I don't want to forget it. He was doing an interview recently about the modern NBA and how you have some very high scoring players, but they're on bad teams, right? And he went on to talk about, if you look at the championship teams, players don't tend to be like that. There's not one great player. There's a great player that gives the ball up to other players. They move around. They learn to play through that player, not by themselves. Right. Jordan had this. If you look at Jordan from the early 80s to the early 90s, he's putting up ridiculous numbers every night, but they both weren't winning. It was only when he got a supporting cast and they shared the ball and they knew what they were doing and they were a great team. Don't get me wrong. Right. But they started to win. You can look at the Denver Nuggets this year. If you're a basketball fan, they share the ball. Ted Lasso, wonderful show, talked about this, about playing through their best athlete and making sure that the ball got delegated the right way. Hockey, it's essential. It is absolutely essential. I don't care if you have Ovechkin or Crosby on your team. They won because they understood how to utilize their teammates, right? And they had great defense. You look at the Vegas Golden Knights this year. Tell me the superstar on that team. You had a few players that had great seasons, but there was no one that like just stood out as, wow, they won because of that guy. They won because of the team working together, right? We need to implement that at a younger age because it's not about making the NHL. It's about the workplace, Christy. And just when you're done playing, being a productive member of society. That starts at 6 years old.
Yeah. Yes, it does. Yeah. I remember there was one coach on I think it was Joey's team, sport level, and they were not very good at passing. So he got together with another coach and they had a game. It was a non-league game. And the rule was you had to pass 3 times before anybody could score. So you weren't allowed to go up and shoot on the net until you passed it at least 3 times. Right. Then you could shoot at the net. And it really helped the kids a lot. Because all of a sudden, I mean, everybody wanted to score right, but they couldn't score until they passed at least 3 times to their teammates. And it really kind of helped them realize, and they became a better scoring team with that concept that was kind of set in their minds at early on in the season. So there are things you can do to try and help the kids get away from being that puck hog. I'll use that term.
It's a great term for you. Yeah. I like that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And also the other great little tidbit that a lot of coaches along the years have used with my kids, especially during a losing season, is learning how to flush it. Mm-hmm. So after a game, you get beat up really badly, you just flush it. Because guess what? The Zamboni is going to resurface the ice. All those bumps and cracks in the ice are going to be gone. You get another shot at it, a new surface, new beginning, another chance at it. So just learn from your mistakes, flush it, and then start fresh. That's another great concept for your kids to learn when they're young.
I agree. You know, another great one, and again, just to bring up Lasso again, Ted Lasso, is be a goldfish, because a goldfish has like a 3 to 10 second memory. Yeah, be a goldfish, be happy. Happiest animal in the animal kingdom. You know, Christy, another one, you bring up a good point about the passing, right? I actually enjoy when coaches implement that, because again, you're changing the win, right? The win is, okay, make 3 passes. You know, one of the things we always say to the young kids, sometimes you got to remind the older athletes this too. I'm putting, you know, what's the fastest moving thing on the ice? You know, we ask the kids that, what's the fastest thing on the ice? And sometimes I'll ask that, and one of the kids will say, well, that player is. And I'll go, it's the puck. The puck is the fastest moving thing on the ice. And the more you can pass it and move it effectively, the better you're going to do. right? And it's amazing sometimes I have to remind them the puck is the fastest moving thing. So
Right.
for the parents listening, look, I'm going to say this too as a coach and formerly a development coach. All right. There's a lot of skill sets in hockey. Being a great playmaker is insanely valuable. It's insanely valuable. All right. And we don't develop it enough in the kids. All right. I prided myself on being a playmaker when I played. And I think it took me a long way in my career because I didn't have the time to develop a shot like some of my teammates had. They had unbelievable shots. I did eventually, but I could pass the puck to the kid that was going to score. And guess what
Right.
that got me? It got me on the top line a lot because
Yeah.
I could pass to the guy that was going to score.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have to understand that there's a lot of different skill sets and that when your kid is 6U, 8U, 10U, scoring's fantastic. I'm not negating anybody that can score, but the well-rounded player can also pass and will look for that pass. So when I see a player go in 1-on-4, I mean, you're telling me a little bit about yourself and hopefully you're coachable and you can understand why that's not the best move to make. Or when I see a player, Christy, go, beat 1 or 2 or 3 kids and score, but we're losing a lot and they celebrate like excessively, I'll say.
Right.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
you know,
Exactly.
what are you doing? And again, we won't look at plus minus at the younger ages, but
Right.
you might not be back on defense when you need to be
Yeah.
there too. There's a lot of wins in a shift. I'm not going to even say a game. And I'm going to
Mhm.
say this again. I understand the need to want to know the score. I understand how it creates competition, but you also have to know that score is irrelevant until the end of the game when it matters. And there's a
Right.
lot of wins on a shift. So if you're in a situation as a youth coach and you think your kids are overly focused on the score, create new wins, whether you're winning or losing. I've had this when we're down 10 goals. Hey, who's going to get the hardest worker this shift? Trust me, the kids will turn right away. I'm going to get it right away. It'll snap present immediately. He'll
Right.
forget the score.
Yeah. And
Right?
our coach used to have a hard hat that
Right.
he would give the kid who worked the hardest, got the little construction hat, the hard hat, and it had hardest worker written on the hard hat.
Yeah.
And everybody wanted it.
They want that more than the
Everybody
game.
wanted that hard hat.
They want that more than to win the game. Now,
Yeah,
again,
more
most
than
teams.
the puck. Yeah, more
Right.
than the puck. Yeah,
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Christy.
yeah, more so than the puck that won the game. They'd rather have the hard hat
Right.
because that was cooler. Yeah.
I said, there's a reason they only give that helmet out when you win the game. I don't know. Maybe they shouldn't. Maybe they should give it out when you lose the game too. But the point is, that's more of a win for the kids than winning the game. Right.
Yeah.
And again, yes, it's a little bit of an individualized prize, right? Sometimes kids selfishly want it, but they're striving for something, right? You're teaching it, right? And I think
Right.
how you create those rewards is very important. You want it to go around the room, right? That's why I think at the top levels, they have the player that won it has to give it away, right? It's not the coach picking, it's the player picks somebody else in the room that's doing it because,
Yes.
I think that's important as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
look,
And then you're building the whole feeling of a team.
right.
You're looking out for each other. So in the might level, you don't keep score. How are the parents about that? Are there parents who are keeping score? And do they openly argue with the concept of not keeping score? Are they upset about it? Or is everyone pretty good about it now? Because back in the day,
Right.
back when I was a mite parent, parents hated that. They weren't grasping it and they couldn't stand that we weren't keeping score. How are parents today?
I think it's a mix. I think
Yeah.
that I think a lot of it comes down to if you played hockey or not, to be honest with you. Because
Mhm.
like I've seen parents that come out and they just don't, they're not worried about it. It's
Right.
just that activity their kid's doing.
Yeah.
And then you have parents like me that have played and want to win and everything matters. And I'm joking to a point, but I have seen everything from parents, which again I'm not poo-pooing this. I've seen parents keep the score on their phone. Right.
Sure.
All right. Again, look. I think there's an element too as a spectator wanting to know, right? That's why I'm
Okay.
saying I'm not against it. It's what you do with it after that's what's important. So just getting for the parents listening, if you want to keep score in your mind just for your own devices, I'm not going to tell you not to do that, right? You're watching, you want the game to be interesting, right? But if you come down to the bench after the game and say, "Hey, you lost 6-5
Right.
because of this play,"
Yeah.
you're crazy. In a might game, much less anything else. You're crazy if you think one play in a might game, every play caused the game to win or lose. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's one aspect of it. I
Do
think we'll go.
parents do that? Have you had a
I have
parent?
not seen too much of
Okay.
that. I think
Yeah.
if they do it, it's in private. All
Yeah.
right.
I'm sure it happened.
I'm sure it happens too. Again, I think a lot of this also comes down to the league or the coach explaining to the parents, like, look, this is why we don't keep score. And you can say, like, I don't like it a lot either, but here's why we don't do it. Right? It's hard when you don't have a score. And then here's the things you should probably reinforce with your kids. But Christy, as you know, at the end of the day, once they get in the car, I mean, they're with their parents, right? The coach is a very small part of their life, time wise, right? So I think it's on all of us as parents to understand that whether you keep the score or not, this is what I would do. It's the sandwich method. If assuming your kid wants to talk about the game, which remember, car ride's not for coaching.
Why
We
not?
talked about
Right.
that, right? If your kid wants to talk about Slurpees and Fortnite after the game, let them talk about it. All right. But if the kid does want to talk about the game and you've got some positives and negatives, you sandwich it. You tell them a positive, a negative, and then another positive. Right. This is what we do at kind of the mid levels with the teenage kids. Hey, you did a great job at skating hard today. I think you could have worked on your passing a little bit and maybe your on ice awareness. But I really love that you finished the game and you never quit.
Very good.
Right? That's how you should generally do it. I
That's a
have
good
seen
sandwich.
kids go. I'm sorry. Go. Yeah,
That's a good sandwich.
it's a delicious sandwich, right? I have seen parents just tell their kids what they've done wrong, or I've seen parents, and like I've had to stop myself from doing this. I've seen parents whose kid had a great game, but they made one big mistake, and they come down and go, "You made this kind of big mistake today."
Mhm.
Right. And it's like, if they played 95% of the game, well, just tell them they played a good game.
Yeah. And
Right.
they know they made
They
that mistake.
know.
You don't have to tell them.
They know. Right. Again,
They'll probably tell you.
I'm a
at
goalie
some
dad. I'm a goalie dad. My kid makes plenty of mistakes in net a game right now at his age. But like I said, he played a game yesterday. I thought he played phenomenal. I really did. He played 90% of the game, maybe the best I've ever seen him play. I didn't bring up the mistakes. I just said, hey, man, you really played great today. I really love that you played so hard today. You know what? He had a smile on his face afterwards. Right? That's what I'm looking for at that age. All right. So look, rounding this out, because I'm looking at the time. All right. These are my three, Christy. If you want to do three, too. If we had to pick three things to say to a kid who really wants to know the score, right? So just alternative to the score. These are my three things. One is let's change the win. Change the win away from just the scoreboard to what can you win this shift or this period, right? Can you pass the puck 3 times a shift? Can you get an assist? Can you make a good pass to 3 of your teammates that have never scored a goal? Change the win, right? And the win should not be, can you get 5 goals this shift? That's not a great win. All right. So that's number one. Number two, Christy, you said this, be a goldfish. Flush it down the toilet, whichever one resonates more with your kid. All right. Have that quick memory. You're going to make mistakes in hockey. It is part of the game. It is your choice to beat yourself up for it for months or for 5 seconds. All right. And then be inquisitive as a coach or as a parent. Don't tell them what they should have done differently. Ask them, hey, what do you think you could have done differently in that situation? Let them ask you for help of what could I have done differently. All right. Ask them, be inquisitive, let them think it out. That's how they learn. Then the third one is again, a little bit like the goldfish one, but be present. Hey, isn't it wonderful that we're playing hockey today, especially now in the summer when it's 90,000 degrees outside? It's nice and cool in here. Isn't it awesome we get to be together right now? You gotta remember to enjoy the moment. All right. There's that great quote of, I wish someone could tell me when we're in the good old days, when we're in them, right?
Yeah.
This is something I'm learning, Christy. And again, you've been through it. I'm in the good old days with my kids right now. And I can tell I really, it's a test sometimes, but I really try and enjoy, like, isn't this great that I'm in the rink with both my kids? I had a moment yesterday. One was playing goalie on one end, one was playing skater on the other end. I said, this is kind of cool that I'm watching my children play hockey because our kids play hockey. Sorry, I had to name drop there. I'm watching these kids play. And then, we did a public session and we were together. And I had a moment, like, my kids are skating with me. You got to really take yourself out like 5, 10, 20 years ago. I love hockey. My children are experiencing this with me. This is awesome. Don't lose sight of that as a parent and as a kid.
And then when they get older and they take you out to dinner and they pay for the dinner and you're sitting there like, wow, my kids are paying for something.
Right.
And I'm benefiting from it. It's like a great moment.
And I need to thank you, Christy, for giving me that light at the end of the tunnel right now, because we offer our kids have some savings, and you know, we say, hey, you want to take mom and me out to dinner? They go, no,
Wow.
no. Why would I do that? You can pay for it. I was like, dang, all right, we'll give that
That's
one another 10
wonderful.
years to simmer in the oven there.
It just gets better and better as the kids get older. So just remember that every phase is wonderful. So you're right. And I love this phase now where my kids are adults and they're going to do just fantastic things in their adulthood. So
what do you do with all that time?
that's a great phase too. So just live in the moment, every phase.
Right.
It just gets better. So yeah, and the other thing we should add on that list is making sure that your kids know that hard work, if you work hard, is going to pay dividends.
Right.
So ask them, did you work your hardest? Did you do your best? Well, yeah, I did. Or no, I didn't. Okay. Well, you know what? Next game, do your best. Work hard. Work at what you didn't. Look back. What didn't you like? What didn't work for you? Work on that. Hard work, hard work, hard work. You'll see the result.
It's a great point, Christy. Yeah. In fact, just in closing, to support your fact, we as humans, this is true of children to adults, we don't really know what we're capable of. Right. And I think that with kids, well, how hard did you work today? Getting them to continually raise the bar on what is hard work. I could see how that over 10, 15 years, 18 years could pay off when they get out of college or get out of school and understand that, okay, now it's time to work. I know what my output level is. Right. Yeah. We were talking about that before the show. So output, hard work it's always a good message, and explain to them, what do you think hard work is? How hard can you work? Is that the win? Show me how hard. I'll never forget my daughter saying, my heart is beating so fast. It was the coolest thing. Yeah, it was very cute. So I'm going to end it on that. Christy, again, wonderful episode with you. I love doing duets with you. No offense, Mike, wherever you are on assignment today. He's at a rink, believe it or not. That's where he is.
Of course he is.
That's where he does. That's what he does. So that's going to do it for this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. If you have a topic idea or a comment or even a concern, you can email us at team@ourkidsplayhockey.com. We love hearing from you. We get emails every week. Parents asking for advice or telling us that an episode meant something to you. So don't be shy. Feel free to reach out to us about that. And of course, you can listen to all of our Kids Play Hockey, Our Kids Play Goalie, or the Ride to the Rink episodes on the Our Kids Play Hockey channels, which is ourkidsplayhockey.com, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Above all, thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your 5-star reviews on every podcast platform that you listen to us on. Have a wonderful day. Skate on. We'll see you next week. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Make sure to like and subscribe right now if you found value wherever you're listening, whether it's a podcast network, a social media network, or our website, ourkidsplayhockey.com. Also, make sure to check out our children's book, When Hockey Stops, at whenhockeystops.com. It's a book that helps children deal with adversity in the game and in life. We're very proud of it. But thanks so much for listening to this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey, and we'll see you on the next episode.